In addendum to my main channel segment from 4 p.m., we have a story about a GOP lawmaker suggesting that Wisconsin electors choose the presidential winner because they don't trust the results. And truth be told, there are some pretty strange irregularities and indicators in Wisconsin. Now, I'm not saying there's widespread fraud, but this guy is basically saying something doesn't make sense. And as I noted, Trump could win because states could be like, nah, his election don't make sense. Let me tell you something. You know what a bellwether district is, or a bellwether town? These are places that always vote for the president, like the winner of the election. This time around, most of the bellwethers got it wrong. And everyone's kind of like, wow, that's never happened. There are instances where bellwether towns don't get it right. And we had the longest running streak finally lose because they backed Trump. And this is like a big deal for a lot of these small towns because they know whenever they say our town voted for this president, the president wins. Now, they're not choosing the president. It's just that they tend to be in alignment with kind of moderates in this country, I guess. This time around, like 80+% got it wrong. Everyone's kind of like, that's strange. In Wisconsin, for instance, there are several different jurisdictions that reported more than 100% voter turnout. This is explained because you have new registration and same-day registration, plus people changing their addresses. That's the official explanation. I'm not saying any of this is indicative of widespread fraud. I'm just saying these irregularities are causing mistrust. I actually think there's a really easy way to understand why we're seeing a lot of dramatic differences, and it's COVID. People moved around because of COVID and the riots, thus mixing and matching different demographics in different areas. It makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't matter what I think, as I often say. The GOP lawmaker wants Wisconsin electors to choose the presidential winner. Now, I want to read this, but I want to tell you something really, really crazy. What if I were to tell you that 3 of the Supreme Court justices today were on George W. Bush's legal team during Bush v. Gore? Why, that would be a fact. From CNN, Supreme Court is about to have three Bush v. Gore alumni from October. They say 3 who assisted Bush. Chief Justice John Roberts. Pretty sure he got appointed by Bush as well, so that's interesting. Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who now, of course, is a justice. I don't know what that means, but man, does it feel like we are lining up the pins for a SCOTUS legal victory for Trump to win. It's very strange. But let me read you about the GOP lawmaker who wants Wisconsin to choose of their own volition as opposed to the popular vote. They say, a Wisconsin Republican is suggesting the state's electors choose whether President Trump or Joe Biden receive their 10 electoral votes. Biden won the state with more than 20,000. State Rep. Joe Sanfilippo of New Berlin said he doesn't trust the election process or the outcome of the results. He is a member of the Assembly Committee tasked by Speaker Robin Vos with investigating the election. Sanfilippo is calling for an outside audit into what he said was a wide range of irregularities that cast doubt on the results. There has been no evidence of any election fraud. He was reelected last Tuesday. Quote, you either have to toss the election out and have a whole new election, or we have our delegates to the Electoral College vote for the person they think legitimately should have won, Sanfilippo said. He suggested electors could decide on their own to award Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes to Trump instead of Biden. They would effectively be nullifying the votes of 3 million plus Wisconsinites, UW-Madison law professor Rob Yablon said. He added, that is not allowed under current Wisconsin law and can't see the legislature trying to change it. The electors that were chosen on election day are legally bound to vote for the candidate that won the popular vote in Wisconsin. And if the legislature attempted to appoint its own substitute slate of electors, it's hard to see how that would be legitimate. Legitimate is not the same as legal. You might call it illegitimate. It might still happen. The Wisconsin Elections Commission agreed. In Wisconsin, the state legislature plays no role in certifying or deciding which slate of electors vote in the Electoral College. Those electors must vote for the candidates of the party that nominated them. I think it is sickening for someone to take it that far and say we have to declare an election null and void because, again, it assaulted your sensibilities that your candidate didn't win. Democrats have created a cloud of suspicion over this election because they refuse to follow state election laws. Conducting such an investigation prior to certifying the election is essential, and the only way our citizens will believe the results reported are legitimate. The state election commission does not have any authority over the electoral process. In its election guidelines, it clearly states, quote, in Wisconsin, the state legislature plays no role in certifying or deciding which slate of electors vote in the Electoral College. Nevertheless, the process will continue to play out until the vote in Wisconsin is certified next month. And maybe it will be, and maybe it won't. But I bring you now to the very strange, maybe not strange at all, circumstance around Supreme Court is about to have 3 Bush v. Gore alumni sitting on the bench. Why, what's this? From CNN, Supreme Court Bush v. Gore, and that's a young Brett Kavanaugh giving an update to CNN. They say 3 who assisted Bush. Roberts flew to Florida in November 2000 to assist Bush's legal team. He helped prepare the lawyer who presented Bush's case to the Florida State Supreme Court and offered advice throughout. Roberts also faced a singular personal challenge during the 36-day ordeal that extended from the November 7th election day to the court's late hour December 12th ruling. Then in private practice, Roberts was preparing to argue before the justices in a separate business case on November 29th. And within days in December, the baby boy he and his wife had planned to adopt was born. After Bush became president, he nominated Roberts to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. The Senate confirmed him in 2003. Bush then elevated Roberts to the Chief Justice position in 2005 to succeed William Rehnquist. During the Senate confirmation hearing, Roberts declined to reveal his view of the justice's 2000 decision, saying a disputed election could come to the court again. Could it now? Could it now? Good sir. Obviously, the particular parameters in that case won't return to the court, he said, but it is a very recent precedent, and that type of decision is one where I thought it inappropriate to comment on whether I think they were correct. Brett Kavanaugh, also in private practice in 2000 and helped the Bush legal team. He wrote on a 2018 Senate questionnaire that his work related to recounts in Volusia County, Florida. In an interview with CNN in Washington, after the justices had heard oral arguments, but before they ruled, Kavanaugh said the justices were concerned about the arbitrary, standardless nature of the recount process in Florida. He dismissed a question about political differences, saying, I don't think the justices care if it's Bush v. Gore or if it were Gore v. Bush. What they care about is how to interpret the Constitution and what are the enduring values that are going to stand a generation from now. Let me tell you, in Pennsylvania, Trump has filed a suit straight up stating the fact. There was a court order. Let the observers watch the tabulation process. The board commission or the election commission or whatever, the people there didn't allow it. They put up barricades and stopped them. The Trump legal team is saying all of those ballots casted were in violation of a court order. You probably know this. I've said it several times. That's one of the bases for for throwing out many of these ballots. It may be a question of what are the enduring values that are going to stand a generation from now. If the elections can be held in such a way that the vote count is done in violation of a court order, how will we have future elections? And therein lies the deepest problem we face now. Pennsylvania, 450,000 votes, they claim, are hanging in balance. The court may say it's fine, they violated a court order, let it stand. Are those the values we're going to leave a generation from now? Or maybe they'll say, we can't allow this to stand. We must make sure everyone knows if you violate a court order, you nullify the votes. That also presents a problem because then if you've got, you want someone to lose, you can purposefully nullify their votes. Therein lies the big challenge of how we decide this. I don't know. Don't ask me. But don't forget, Judge Amy Coney Barrett was also there. Barrett wrote on the questionnaire she submitted to the Senate for her Supreme Court confirmation review. One significant case on which I provided research and briefing assistance was Bush v. Gore. I love it. She said the law firm where she was working at the time represented Bush and that she had gone down to Florida for about a week at the outset of the litigation. When the dispute was in the Florida courts, she said she had not continued on the case after she returned to Washington. During her hearings this week, she told senators she could not recall specifics of her involvement. I did work on Bush v. Gore. I did work on behalf of the Republican side. To be totally honest, I can't remember exactly what piece of the case it was. There were a number of challenges. And to be honest, it was 20 years ago. But isn't this a little weird? Trump chose Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. It's almost like Trump has been planning this for a long time, and that's creepy. But hey, I'll tell you what. I'll give a shout out to Michael Moore when he said, I think it was Michael Moore, Donald Trump won't leave. He'll never leave. And I said, that's ridiculous. Now it looks like Donald Trump's not going to leave. I don't know what the cases are going to be. And I'll tell you this. If it turns out Trump has a legitimate legal path to victory and that there was impropriety, we got to weed it out. We can't allow voter fraud or manipulations of our election to get in someone's candidate. We need our courts to uphold the rule of law. If they do, that ruling must stand. But I'll tell you this, if somehow, for some reason, we get to a point where the Supreme Court upholds that Trump, in fact, won in violation of the votes of the people, and I'm saying like they don't actually find fraud or something, there's going to be bedlam in this country. It is going to be madness. But I think that's where we're headed. Come on. Doesn't it feel like all the pieces are being lined up? I mean, maybe it's not true, but Vox is now starting to say it like this might happen. Vox, you didn't mention the 3 people in the Supreme Court right now worked on Bush v. Gore. Help to George Bush. This is going to get spicy, isn't it? I guess we'll see. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.